Okay, good morning. This morning the Black Hills Playhouse Alumni Association is sponsoring the Zoom Coffee Hour to present a BHP preseason update with Linda Anderson, Executive Director, and Dan Workman, Artistic Director. They will be joined also with Deb Workman, the Artistic Director of Education for the BHP. And we'll cover the upcoming season, preparations, physical plant improvements, fundraising, the education program, and they will take questions as well. We'll have a good discussion. So I am Mark Mearsman, the BHP AA Treasurer, and with me as facilitator is Jenny Mantanell and her husband, Mel Cry. Hey. Again, we'll be facilitators. And before we get going, I'll go around and I'll kind of guide us through introductions and of presenters and attendees, and we'll give those, and then we'll get going after that. So, Linda, you have some opening comments or introduction?
Good morning. I'm Linda Anderson, Executive Director of the Black Hills Playhouse, and I'm in year 15. Huzzah!
Oh,
Dan, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, I'm Dan Workman. I'm the artistic director of the Black Hills Playhouse Summer Stock. And I think this is my, I don't know, 17th season as artistic director and 29th season as part of the company.
whoa.
Hey, Deb, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm Deb Workman. I am the artistic director of the education department. I have no idea how many years I've been with the Playhouse, but the start of the education department with the tour started 25 years ago. So at least that.
Quarter century.
Woo.
Congratulations. Jenny May?
Hi, my name is Jenny Mae Donnell. I'm the president of the Black Hills Playhouse Alumni Association and delighted to be here with the staff and with those who are calling in to find out about the 79th season, which is absolutely celebratory and exciting. And in this season, we are announcing our 80th, and we will be giving more information throughout the whole 79th about those celebrations as well. Thank you. And this is my darling husband, Menno Cry, who's an alumni and is helping with the 80th. Thank you.
Awesome. Janet?
I'm Janet Brown, and I started at the Black Hills Playhouse in 1971, and I keep being involved somehow or another
Pull you back
over
in.
all these years. So happy to be here with everyone, and so proud of what's going on.
Thanks, Janet. Okay, so we'll get going, and I'll turn it over to Linda and Dan and Deb, and thank you for being here this morning.
Let's start with Dan.
Oh, okay.
Or Dan.
Sure. So I am excited about this season coming up. I think we have a fantastic company that is assembled. We have a lot of returning people that are coming back, and we also have a lot of new people that are joining us. And it's just going to be a great season. I'm excited about all the shows. The designs are coming in as the finals have been wrapping up this last week, as the company starts to arrive, and they're very soon in the coming days. So it's just going to be, I think it's going to be a fantastic season.
So this is a time when we're kind of in our in-between limbo. So we have we're on the verge of everyone coming into camp, right? And so last week was our volunteer day, and we had about, I think it was like 25 volunteers come out and cleaned all the rooms and got all of the spaces ready to go and raked up pine needles and moved picnic tables around and cleaned out the fire pits and cleaned the kitchen. So that was a big day of our community coming together to support the artists and technicians that are coming in. And every day, we're just marching toward that time. So today our first person comes into camp. Her name's Brittany, and she's our new chef. And she's coming to us from Las Vegas. And then we have our shop heads who come in, and they go through an orientation, and, we give them, all the information they need. We do first aid training. We have a new emergency preparedness plan that our physical plant manager, Darren Witt, has put together. And you might have seen on Facebook this week when the Custer Volunteer Fire Department was out at the Playhouse, and they were they got a tour, so they know where everything is, and they took away maps and things that Darren had prepared for them. Just so, and he did that with the ambulance services and also with some Custer State Park officials, just so all of those first responders around us know us and know where our everything is and where the hookups are, and so anyway, that's new. You know, we always think about safety, we think about fire, but having that, I think, will be a really interesting thing. And I'm so excited for the season. If Jeff Kingsbury were here, he would certainly want me to tell you that we are really knocking it out of the park as far as our pass sales and our pre-sales and our pre-sales for tickets. I think probably the highest numbers we've seen since I started, for sure. And
Yay.
yeah, you know, I love when cash comes through the door because we're going to spend it quickly.
Who wants to go next?
Congratulations. Congratulations. Seriously.
Hey, can I actually, I got two questions that popped up in my head
Oh,
when you were
sure.
talking. Do we have any new shop heads this year that are new to the Playhouse, or are they all returning alums?
We have new shop heads, but they're not necessarily new to the Playhouse. So like Bertha Stolle is our head electrician, but she was an electrician last summer. And then
Promotion.
Josie Hoskins is going to be our paint charge this summer, and Josie was out there last summer as one of our Gen Techs. And then Ben Kramer is coming on board as our props head this summer. Ben is also designing the set for Waitress. And Ben is a Playhouse alum from, I think 2009.
Oh, wow.
2000, I think it was 2009. He also toured for the Dakota Players Education Program one summer.
Good.
He's a graduate of USD, and he's currently a professor down at Stephen F. Austin University in Texas. So, glad to have these three new people in charge of these areas. But in terms of returning people, Christina Olson is coming back in charge of the costume shop.
Yay.
Yeah, Chris Haig is returning
Yay.
to his position that he has held in previous summers. He's going to be our technical director this summer.
Yay.
So that's great
Yay.
to have all of these people that know what's going on. And Amber Cook is going to be our production manager for the summer.
Oh, yay. So that's a new role for her at the Playhouse.
Yeah, she did it one summer before, but she's taking it back on again this summer.
Excellent.
And
Hey, so Dan, is it true that the entire electrics crew are women?
they are all yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what pronouns they use, but yes.
Wait a minute. That's not what I meant. But anyway, I don't know that in all the time I've been out here that the entire group are women in electrics.
It's an evolution. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, can you
The
go?
matriarch is taking over, haven't you heard? It's coming. It's just slow in coming.
It's all
About time.
evolution.
It's about time.
Evolution of the species. Can you go through? I have kind of a two-part question, actually. We've never, I don't think, had this discussion in the board meeting in depth, but this might be a better forum for that. Talk about like the audition process and
Yes.
and how it's exploded with the electronic part, right? The numbers, is that right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I mean, I know I don't want to reach back way in time, but if you could talk about the evolution of the audition process as succinctly as you can, but also
Sure.
talk about the pluses and minuses, well, maybe not minuses. How about positives and challenges of the electronic part that's exploded the numbers? How about that?
You don't want me to
Sense?
just kind of sit on here and just, kvetch about problems? Okay.
No. But
Whatever you want to talk
especially-
about.
especially
I
for
just
the-
asked the question because it's something that I've
Yeah, yeah.
Wondered.
And
I don't know.
especially, I just want to add, that's was my question too, for the alumni who has
Right.
have no idea of what the fullness of what you guys really do now in casting.
Yeah, and how
Sure.
that's evolved, right?
How that's evolved, it will be very interesting for the old alumni to hear. So thank
Sure.
you.
Well, I'll just take you through the process of how it goes through. So we set up our schedule. We have our individual auditions that we work with in terms of our partners. So we make sure that we have our schedule with USD so that we have our partnership there. We schedule a day of auditions and interviews there. We have a relationship with Southeast Missouri State University down in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. So we schedule a stop there. In the last couple of years, we've had a relationship with Western Illinois University, and so we've made a stop there. Those three were happened this year. We've also had in the past. We've also stopped at UMKC. We've stopped at University of Nebraska Lincoln. We've stopped at Drake University. So it just depends on availability of those spots, our schedule, how we can make those work. Um, the number of people that we see at those is dependent upon the time frame that we're there. So, at USD, we get to see quite a few of their students in terms of their the technical interviews, and then I think in the afternoon when we saw the actors, we saw about 30 of their performers that day. Um, Western Illinois, I think we saw about 25 in the time that we were there. Southeast Missouri has a huge program, and we watched auditions for a little over 6 hours that day, and we got to see about 70 of their students audition. Um, those are our individual groups, so that we are the only theater there that's auditioning for them.
And then
Um,
Rapid City too.
oh, in Rapid City, yes, thank you very much. In Rapid City this year, I think we had about 14 that auditioned in Rapid City this year, which was bigger than normal.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the bigger groups that we see, I participate in the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. Our region, we're in Region 5. And um, for the region this year, I think they do it where they have the students submit online, and then I'm able to watch them online, and then I'm able to call them back at the festival. So online, I watch, I think it was about 220 auditions for KCACTF. And then I called back 30 at the festival. So I was able to see about 30 students there. Um, and then the big one I go to the United Professional Theater auditions in Memphis, Tennessee. It's at Theater on the Square there, or Playhouse on the Square. And it's a really well-run audition. And it lasts for 4 days. I was only there for 3. And so each of those days that you're there, you see 200 actors throughout the day. And then in the evening, you then have the chance to call people back and then see more from them in the evening. So, all of those people combined, and you also get videos of all 1,400 people who supplied videos to UPTAs, and the 800 that were then chosen to be a part of the auditions there. So that's where we saw a lot of I see a lot of people in that process. And then online, just submitting directly to the Black Hills Playhouse. I can't. I'm testing my memory here, but I think it was over 1,200 this year.
Jeez.
1,200 auditions that were submitted to us online, and the evolution of that has really kicked up in recent years. I think that it really started growing right after the pandemic, and when that started to become a very much a way of doing things. And a lot of theaters are still are keeping that as the initial way for contact to happen for auditions. And so those 1,200 people, and it would have been impossible for me to watch all 1,200 by myself going through. So Jeff and Cassie and Liam, and I think Linda might have been a part of some of them, but they went through and they watched the 1,200 auditions and narrowed them down for me to about, I want to say 300. So then I ended up watching about 300 of them for that. So that's kind of how the process has been working. And so then casting from there. I will say that as it's easier to get a feel for who somebody is when you're in person with them. Um, because I'm not just casting for a specific role, I'm casting for the season. I'm also casting for the company. Who do I think is going to be a great company member? Who do I think is going to be, somebody who is not just a good actor, but is also going to be somebody who I want to have to deal with 24 hours a day for 13 weeks.
The
So
good fit test.
on that aspect of it. So in person is so much more easy to tell that. But
So then, okay, so that begets, sorry, brief question. What percent, yeah. What percentage of the hirees are from in-person versus non?
Oh,
that's a good question. I would say
Right, and
that
you can throw out a
probably
rough number, I don't care.
as I'm thinking about some of the
Because you're more guaranteed to find the good fit on a in-person, So does that mean that is it 50-50 or is the in-person like
it's higher
seventy-five
than that.
twenty-five, right?
I think that the in-person hires are probably closer to 80%.
Oh, 80-20. Wow. Interesting. Good. Oh, good.
But that only makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, in our particular, when the good fit it is important, if not critical.
Yeah. So I have a question. Dan, can you speak to this? This is fascinating to me that back in the day before my time, you weren't cast in a specific role. You just showed up at camp and hoped you were cast in the shows. And can you speak to that on the pros and cons of that and kind of what made it switch over to auditioning for specific roles?
Um, well, so let's see. My first summer out there was still cast as you go. First 2 summers out there were still cast as you go. You showed up as a member of the company, and you would audition on opening night, or opening day of the show. You would audition, and then they would usually post the cast list after intermission. And then if there was an opening night party that night, people were drinking for different reasons. Um,
On the back of the snack bar wall.
yes. Oh,
By
okay.
the,
Yes,
by
where
the
they were
phone.
posted.
By
By
the
phone.
phone.
Yeah, like for some reason the phone
When
was
did, when
important.
did we go? When did you go to pre-casting? Does anybody specifically know? I don't remember.
I think
I
that. Go
I
ahead.
started in 92 and it was already pre-casting
Oh,
I think
then.
92
okay.
was the first year that it was precast.
Oh, 92. Oh, okay.
So 90 and 91, I think we're still show up and
Audition.
as a member of the company.
And don't you think, Dan, that there was a kind of a change in the culture of how actors were trying to get jobs? At some point, it was like, do I
Absolutely.
want to go not knowing,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you've got somebody who's incredibly talented who can play Maria in Sound of Music or whatever. I mean, are you just going to go and say? I mean, they became
Roll the dice.
that. Yeah, exactly. They became more wanting to be self-determined
Mhm.
before they got there so that you could be prepared. I mean, it's just sort of like these things kind of came together and then we realized, geez, we could have a better company. Right? I mean, there was, if you actually
Yes.
did those things ahead of time, right?
I think if you know those things ahead of time too, that people are coming in with stronger expectations of what they're going to be doing there.
Right.
Because when people would come in and they weren't getting any would not get cast in any roles that they thought they should get cast in, or were not getting any substantial parts, then they were disappointed and angry,
Sure.
Right.
Poisoning the
and not
well.
happy about
Meaning.
things.
Yeah.
So I
And
think that there was a lot of disgruntlement that would occur because of that. But I think by changing it to have more specific things, and we also evolved to more deliberate choices in being made, that we are hiring technicians and not just actors who are also technicians, but hiring people who are specialized in those areas. So that you're getting a stronger carpentry staff, you're getting a stronger sewing staff, and not just people who are all interested in theater that way. Although there's something to be said for people who are strong in all aspects of that of theater production.
Right. I think that's the only thing I would say about The old method is you did get your hands in everything throughout the summer, and that is educationally is a
I don't
little.
think yes, and I don't know that we've entirely lost that
Uh-huh.
because the intern company, whether you are a carpenter intern, you're still still part of that intern company, or if you are an actor intern, when you are not in rehearsals, then you are still reporting to those crews, and so you get to rotate through, and you get to learn a little bit about carpentry, or you get to learn a little bit about electrics, or you get to learn about props. So we're rotating them through the different shops when they're not in rehearsals. And so we're still hoping to give them that rounded education as part of the process. And those that are in specific shops, whether it's the props intern or the costume, a stitching intern, they're also still getting more experience because when they're needed in other areas, then they get that well-rounded aspect too of like running shows and learning how to do quick changes or being a part of the crew that switches out the sets or etc.
So Dan, can you talk about the intern, because this is also something that many alumni don't really understand, is the intern process. How
Sure.
that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so our interns, anybody who is still in undergrad or just graduated from their undergraduate degree, are brought in as part of the intern company, and it's a classification for us. It's um, they become part of a group of interns, and they're all part of that. They all receive the same pay, so that they're all equally aligned. Um, they're whether they're actor interns or whether they're technical interns, brought in all of this, or customer service interns as all part of this, and learning that process. So I think it's just teaching them as they go through the whole summer and learning about all the aspects of theater.
So who all are interns?
How many?
I mean, how many? How do you make that decision? Is everybody?
No, not everybody is considered it. Not everybody is an intern. So like none of our shop heads are not interns. And there are actors who are brought in as that are not, who are brought in as just actors. Interns are hired for the entire summer,
Ah,
Yeah,
right?
so it's usually about 14.
Yeah, 14 actor interns, and then there's usually probably another 8 or 9 that are other interns in different areas. So I'd say our intern company is probably around 20 to 23, somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
And then
So
the full company is what?
65, I think, this year.
is that bigger than normal?
It's about average.
Not average. So is there a bright line you said for like undergraduate and graduated and just graduated and non between intern, non-intern? Is that right? Is that line mostly the definition, but there's some instances where that's not definitively the definition. Does that make
Uh,
sense?
Yeah, there's certainly instances where that's not
I got you.
it's not hard and fast rule. For example, our paint charge this year is still and paint charge and our electrics heads are both still students.
Got it.
So, but they have the experience. They are upperclassmen.
Sure.
They have had the experience. They're both Playhouse returnees, so we know them. We have
So it's not
confidence in
black and
their
white,
ability. Yeah, and
but
so
it's close. Okay.
so that is part of it as well.
Back to your comment about the you hire 80% of those who audition in person.
Now
And I'm going to butcher this question because I'm trying to formulate it on the fly, so I apologize in advance. Um, how to inverting the perspective to the applicants or potential hirees, how do they, do you think they realize that, or is that known that in person? I wonder, I don't know. And if there's no answer to this, that's just the way it is. Um, how that maybe that realization or that suspicion, maybe on their part, that, oh, the in person is really going to be a better avenue than the electronic, even though the electronic casts a huge, enormous, almost unlimited net, basically. So I
And
wonder from the other side, from the applicant, hiree side, how that influences the process. And I don't know if that part is really germane to my question, but does that make sense, sort of, or is that something you can speak to in any way, shape, or form? I'll
Um,
cast a wide net.
I think it does make the question does make sense, and I think that an actor is you need to figure out how to get your face out there in any way you can. I think that if anybody is accepting online applications, if they are accepting electronic submissions, put it out there. And I think that's one of the reasons why our numbers have gone way up is because people have them. They've put them together. They're spending a little bit of time on putting them together with some quality, making sure that they're lit well and that they sound okay. Um, so that they're putting time in it, and you can then send that same audition off to
everyone.
yeah, an infinite number of people, or send off if you put it on YouTube and you send that link to so many people, they all have that link, So I don't think it's detrimental to have a good online application.
Well, and I think sometimes it allows for, people that just can't get to an audition,
Yeah.
the ability to
Practical
audition.
purposes.
Dan, do you think it helps you as you're casting more diversity?
It does. I mean, well, you're always making sure that the roles that you're searching for. At the in-person auditions I go to, a lot of them are younger actors, and so I do find that the online auditions help me find more of our more mature actors, and so I'm
Oh,
able to
really?
follow
Oh,
up
interesting.
with them a little bit more. Um, but that's just the nature of where I'm going for auditions and
Right.
what I'm able to do. If I was able to go to, New York, and if I was able to go to all of these places and have, multiple auditions and spend a lot more money on the process, I would have more, more access. But I think it happens that way. So I think in terms of actors putting it out there, Mark, the electronic is a great way for them to do it. But
Sure.
if they have a specific place that they want to be involved with, to follow up with that place and see if there is a place that you can go and be in person. Um, if that's something that you want to do, then they should follow up with that.
Do you find you have more surprises with the reality of those you hire with electronic only, or it's a wash either way? It's all the same. I know. It's a loaded question. I'm sorry. You don't have to.
No, it's fine. You're always hoping that whenever the company arrives, I'm always like, "Oh, okay, here we go.
That's your roll of the dice, right?
Who's showing up?"
Right. Hopefully
Uh,
they come across exactly like they did in the video.
yeah, but I think I think that I've gotten better over the years in terms of reading people and knowing and who they are coming in. But
Okay.
there's always surprises, and some of them are great surprises, and some of them are not.
Mixed
Dan,
bag.
do you do like follow-up interviews with those ones that are just on? I mean, do you talk to them?
I do.
Of course.
So,
Oh, sure.
um,
Okay.
so for the ones that I see online, when I will send them out like sides or ask them if they have, for example, for this summer for waitress, I would reach out and I would say, here's the side from, for read this for Jenna. Can you find somebody to read with you? Submit this back to me. And if you have a song from waitress that you could submit to me, that would be fantastic as well. So then they are able to then submit other parts to me, other lines to me, and I get that. And then I do like to have a little bit of an interview with them over Zoom or Google Meet.
Yeah.
There you go. You get at
Just
the fit part of it.
conversation.
Okay, good fit. Sure.
The nice part about electronic admissions too is it's very easy. Well, when they apply, they can also put if they're interested in the education programs like the tour and such. And it's easier for all of us to like hand them back and forth, or for more people to check them out, things like that. So that's the plus side, of electronic.
Dealing
You
with
know,
the
Go back and watch it
practicality of it
again.
all, or the
An
ease
You
of
can go
use.
interesting,
back and watch it. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Oh
an
man.
interesting thing this year that I found is we got more we got, because of the, I don't want to get into this in any extensive way, but because of the political atmosphere, there were people of other genders and we got questions specifically about the place that we are. You know,
Sure.
if people could feel safe and if they were concerned about coming to our state.
Sure.
And
Ah,
Interesting.
I had more this year than I think any year.
wow. That they were worried about what may happen in the woods.
Yeah.
In the
Oh
woods.
my.
You know,
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
and I think people, especially those that are going through university programs, are prepared to, many are prepared to advocate strongly for themselves.
Sure.
And so you know, you get really specific questions
Sure.
that they want answered. And so,
Part
and
of the
I know of
ongoing
at least,
national
I know
sorting.
of at least two that were offered jobs that didn't take them ultimately, even though we
Because
had.
of that, you
Mhm.
think?
I don't think it was because of our answers. I mean, it could have been anything, right? They could have gotten a
Yeah,
better
yeah.
Their comfort
offer,
zone.
but yeah, it was interesting.
Interesting.
And the youth camps have uh we get questions, but we also have been praised for where we stand with inclusion.
Being inclusive. Parents in particular of students of, you know, trans students or whatever, they want to know that their kids are going to a safe location.
Well, of course. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with the new the evolution of casting, how do you, that's a monster in a certain way in terms of time. I mean, do you have any Saturday in the spring that you're not somewhere?
No.
So that's such a, in a way, such a burden, a different burden that I'm sure it's taken you this long to adjust.
I
And
know we did talk a little bit about would we ever want to put a cap on the numbers, but Dan said
yeah,
no.
Is there a limit on the minutes, like at 3 minutes or 5 minutes or?
yeah, what
Yeah.
is the structure? Yeah.
And I'll tell you too about the minutes in terms of the time frame. So we put out, say, don't do any more than 2 minutes on, on this. So when you go into start watching a video that somebody has submitted, and if it's on YouTube, your watching of it doesn't register until after 30 seconds.
Ah.
And so if
Funny
you
we
get
know
on
that.
and you're watching and you after 15 seconds you're like no, it doesn't register that you even watched their video.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
So you get some people that write, my video wasn't even watched, and I'm like, it was watched.
Register by name? Is that
No, just the register. So like
Or
if you
by-
watch on YouTube,
by
you know that
number.
it says number of views
number.
at the bottom.
I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Just the view.
Well,
Okay,
I have
view
a-
count.
I have sort of a different question about why people come and don't come, as company members, is where do we fit these days when you're going around, Dan and Linda and Deb, when you're talking to people? I mean, how are we doing financially with regards to our competition for other places? And I mean, we've always been in a disadvantage. I
That way.
don't mean to
That
say
way.
this, but we're South Dakota. So if you're an actor in Los Angeles or whatever, I mean, New York or any bigger kind of city, I mean, you always think about South Dakota, which is why, back in the old days, it was 85% USD people or alumni recommendations, right? That's who came to the Playhouse. It wasn't, somebody who said, "Oh, gee, I want to go to the Black Hills Playhouse because I picked it up." So how do we do these days competitively? Do you feel like there are people who say that's not enough money? Well, I'm sure there are always people, but just generally, how are we doing?
This year, with Linda's support, we made a huge increase in what we were offering our intern company. So in the last, in the last few years, we'd been offering $250 a week plus, plus room and board. And the intern company don't necessarily understand how much the room and board comes into
Cost.
play for them, right?
Yeah.
They don't understand how much that value that actually gives them. But this year we upped that to $400 a week. So our intern company is all making our lowest paid people are $400 a week, which is plus room and board. So it is I making it competitive to anybody who's going to have like a part-time job over the summer working at Target or at,
Right,
you know,
right.
so I think this year I had fewer
And
people turning me down
for money.
for offers.
Yeah, and just on the other side to give you a sense of what that means administratively, last year our salary line, our actual salaries paid was $274,000 for the summer. This year we're projecting 400,695.
Holy moly.
Wow, big
Because
jump.
we did an increase across the board for all the directors, designers, you know,
Wow.
because once you up the,
Sure.
so it remains to be seen if I'm crazy.
Well, but I mean, but at the
Jury's
same
out.
time, you know, we in the past years though we've been having trouble, getting our technical director, getting our,
Sure.
our shop heads. We've been having trouble getting those people lined up. And our design teams have always been, have come back because they enjoy working at the Playhouse because it's a beautiful location and they enjoy doing theater there. But we have been slowly falling further behind. So we also took a big increase in all of those positions, and so that was also very beneficial. And I think that's part of the reason why our technical director is back on this summer. Is like, oh well, that makes it worth my while.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
how many of the 65 are new?
I haven't looked at those numbers,
For
but
summer, sorry. Okay.
I'd have to go through and count.
The touring payment or salary is also competitive with other companies.
Oh, good.
And how many other companies are there now, Deb? Like you, like you guys.
Mm,
I only know Missoula and you, but are there more?
There's
uh,
Prairie Fire is one of them.
Say it
they're
again.
no
No,
no
Prairie
longer.
Fire
Oh,
folded during COVID.
Prairie Fire
Mhm.
closed.
Yep.
Mhm,
Oh, bummer.
mhm.
There are a
I mean,
few.
there's a few that do similar things that we do, but the pandemic shifted things around a lot.
But do most of them do handicap like you do, which is amazing?
No, I mean those are just the focused on touring, right? And our tours, although we can do we can talk our teams through um
I mean,
many situations, but that's not a program that is only for people with disabilities.
yeah. So basically the expanding stage work with disabilities tends to be local artists that sometimes we're also supplementing with the tour team. But the tour team this year, they were 55 locations between
Wow.
two teams.
Congratulations.
They
Wow.
were just on that, on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
site.
Is that still a week long?
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that it was Deb and I were talking. I was like, it was 25 years ago right now that Deb and I were doing our first residency at the Takini School in Howe, South Dakota. Our first residency for the Children's Theater Company of South Dakota. 25 years ago is this right now.
You know
Wow.
what? You
And
know what I think is so
we
cool?
remember it in detail.
What I think is so cool about that is that we did house this year.
We did.
What did you say, Linda? What?
Well, this year we went to house Takini. I mean, that's how
Oh,
we've
sweet.
been going to these tiny places.
Where is
And what a difference it makes. And what a difference it makes. You know
And
that, but
and just to give a little advocacy pitch here, it was started with a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. It would never have happened had we not had that 2-year grant.
Wow.
And
Janet Brown. It would never happen if we hadn't had Janet Brown.
well, I applied, but I didn't do the work. I mean, then but we had the money to buy equipment, we had money to buy a vehicle, we had money to, the things that a normal theater would never be able to
Yeah.
start up by itself. So when you get those things about send an email to your congressional leadership about the National Endowment for the Arts. It matters more in South Dakota than it does in many, many other states where
Well, and the
funding
thing
just dropped
is,
in the bucket, you know.
the National Endowment money is matched by the state, right? And so for the Playhouse, that means about $45,000 that goes to the Playhouse operations through our Arts Challenge grant, and about 72,000 that goes to all of these rural, to us to serve all of these rural communities. So without the National Endowment, there's this, where is this funding going to come from?
Yeah.
So this year is going to be really instructive to see what happens when those priorities come down, because I can guarantee you most of those small communities cannot bring us in
Sure.
if they don't get some kind of assistance.
That's right. Wow. Wow. Wow.
So the good news and the bad news.
Yeah.
We have a product, it's a good product, it has customers, but it's going to need a little subsidy, and we have to figure out where that can come from. It's not like there's not money out there, but this is what we need to protect, this government funding as much as we can.
What's the split between private and public grant fundings, success, or whatever you want to call it, that the Playhouse gets for various things? I mean, you could do it either by count, X number of public, X number of private, or by dollar amount totals and split.
That's a good question that I don't know that I can answer right off the top of my head. But I mean, I will say this, 110,000 that comes from the government is definitely the biggest
Oh, okay.
supporter. And we get a lot of other grants, but not at that size.
Got it. How many do you get in any given year? Is that like a fair, is it easier? Is that an easier question or not really?
Yeah, well, the National Endowment money and the state money is the consistent money.
Got it.
The rest of it is,
Catch as catch can, huh?
exactly.
Okay.
And now, I mean, I don't want this to veer off into all of this today
Sure.
very much, but all of the local philanthropy organizations are getting together, and they've already made rules about they're going to be putting more money into replacing some of this money, but the arts are absolutely excluded from that. The
Oh,
community
really?
foundations, it's all about essential services.
Oh,
We are not a part of that picture that can
I
get
got you.
additional help. And that's exactly what happened during COVID.
Ah,
And we survived COVID because we got a federal grant.
Yeah, why? How exactly? Because
We got for performing arts venues, we qualified, and that's what kept us afloat. And, it'll be so interesting to see, because even during that time, so many theaters folded. Right?
exactly.
So there's a lot of unrest in theater world. And I do feel that people have tried, it's part of that funding too. People want to get employed as quickly as they can, because there's a lot of, theaters that have gone under, and there are a lot of artists out there looking for work.
And
Yeah.
typically, I mean, I think typically over the last 40, 50 years, individual donors are by far where most of the money comes from most institutions. And in places like South Dakota, the government funding will be a little bit higher because
sure.
because the State Arts Council gets the same amount of dollars from the NEA as the state of New York and California, right? That's the magical thing about that. And that money means so much more to us.
Mm.
So,
So has that always been that?
yes.
So when was that set up to be that? Because that's shocking.
1967 to be.
And what was that, Janet? What
When Nancy Hanks was the first chair of the National Endowment for the Arts, she established in every state an arts council, and then established this policy that said if your state legislature will put in $25,000, the federal government will match that. And then that built into the public partnership program at the National Endowment for the Arts, and that money is now at about $1 million for every state. And every state, if your state legislature will match it, gets gets that $1 million.
Each yearly.
Yes, if they do
If
their,
your state will match it. So
yeah,
now it comes back to, will our state match it?
yeah, it's always been that leverage. And I'll tell you, states have looked at losing their state arts council agencies, and the legislature said, well, we don't want to lose that money from the federal government. I mean, it's been the perfect kind of carrot, right?
Uh-huh.
That's
So what's Nancy's last name?
Nancy Hanks.
She was a smarty darty.
Yeah, she was. It was
Because
very
Well, and
different.
it's
Very,
what made arts accessible to so many rural locations
Yeah.
across.
and very different setup from the National Endowment for the Humanities,
Hmm.
which doesn't have this happening, and consequently, their and those humanities councils are nonprofit organizations as opposed to the State Arts Council, which is a state government agency.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
it's a fascinating kind of. Sorry to get into all of that.
No,
but
that's it. That's
No, that's interesting.
balanced. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
God love Nancy Hanks.
That's right. That's right. But the government's whole policies about the arts, funding in the arts and funding in a lot of things has been, we put in a little, we expect you to get the most out of that little bit. So as opposed to Europe and places where government funded 95%
Britain.
of theaters and whatever. In the United States, it's been 10%, 8%, 6%, 2%, right?
Wow.
And then you use that money to leverage other money. It's kind of our policy, unstated policy.
So, people better at math than I can tell you this, but like our earned revenues this year between all of our programs are projected at $885,000. But our contributed income is $650,000 that
That's
we're,
fantastic.
and that's grants and our individual giving. So we're one of the lucky ones in that we're able to actually have earned income. It's much harder, I think, for like visual arts institutions and others, but theater people pay for.
But still, that ratio is really unusual for theaters. I mean, usually it's the other way around. We get 40% of our income from earned income, and we get 60% from, as opposed to the other way around.
Interesting.
Well,
So-
wait a minute. So what you're saying is South Dakota, in our situation, it's reversed.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's a growth. Well, I don't know, Linda, why?
I mean, part of it is, it's the success of what we're doing at the Playhouse from
Right.
ticket sales, but also it's that cash that comes in from all these communities that hire us to go to rural areas, right? So we've got more earned income that way. Most towns, they'll get 50% will come from those grant sources and 50% is earned income for us. So having those two programs, I mean, from a business sense, being able to have cash flow means all the difference for us.
Right.
So, and it's really the growth of that education program and that's where the potential growth still remains, because the Black Hills Playhouse will always be the Black Hills Playhouse. It will seat so many people in the region, can only pay so much for tickets. They're not going to pay $250 to $300 for a ticket. So the growth area has always been in that education program, I think. And we'll see how that moves forward, I think, with Deb's new space and what's going to happen with the team there and all that. So.
Yeah, Deb was having trouble with her internet, so
I wondered about that. That's okay. Hey, I brought this up at the last board meeting, and I'm gonna, to Janet's point, I'm gonna ask it again. About the growth, and totally get it, totally understand. But with the going from what a longer season to a slightly shorter season, whatever, 5 shows, 4 shows, this may be a bridge too far, but that half of August and maybe half of September or all of September, you could argue is money left on the table when the weather's still nice, right? If you if you could do something with that time at the Playhouse. I don't know that there's anything to be done, but it's just a different way of thinking that that is potential money left on, left on the table. I
I
don't know.
think that
I brought it up, but it didn't go anywhere. But it's early, and I had never thought about it before.
Well, Mark, I think it's a legitimate point, but as we it is a time frame. So like
Right.
um, all of our schools that go they
Oh,
go back to school in the end of August, and so when 70% of our company is people who are involved in education, whether they are students or whether they are professors in
yeah,
institutions, when all of a sudden you are losing all of your people and you don't have anybody then to run a
sure.
show or to build a show or to do anything like that, you'd
It
have
just
to
begets
change
some
your
more
model
challenges in order
drastically.
to leverage that time because time can turn into money, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you don't have the support mechanism, you can't do it. But can you brainstorm out a way to do that? I don't know.
well, I also think that, other facilities that do go into the fall tend to be year-round facilities.
Sure.
And for us, while you can say there's money left on the table, the money left on the table is always a question mark, where
Sure.
the expenses of keeping our community going are significant for each month, so whether it's utilities or whatever. So it's almost like you'd need a second company
Right.
to run that, and we don't have that number of artists, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
The Playhouse
I
tried
just
that for a
wonder.
few
Yeah, I was
years.
gonna say we
And
did
yeah,
it.
you
I
absolutely know
know
this. You were involved.
exactly. How
But
many
that's
years that we followed up? I'd say maybe 3 or 5, maybe.
5, maybe.
Menno says 3. So, but it wasn't. It wasn't able to continue for whatever. That's my limited
Right.
knowledge of why
Yeah.
not.
Well, the
But
risk was too high. You were paying
yeah,
out huge
and
sums of
we
money,
and we went to the bigger house.
and we
And
went to a bigger house, and one year
what's the
we
name
lost.
of that house?
The
The
Civic
Rapids,
Center.
the Civic Center. We went
Yeah,
to the Civic. Yeah,
yeah. And the year we lost thirty
we
thousand
lost
dollars.
money.
Somebody said, "Why are we doing this?"
That's right. We lost money. Well, not the first year,
Not the first year, but the
but
third year, I think
the
must
third
have
year
been.
we did. Yes, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
yeah,
So
it is kind of the nature of being out in a forest, where you can't. One of the things about the new education spaces that's actually really fantastic is that having a home, right,
Sure.
that has a little theater where they can actually do things in that place and not have to rent other places, that's huge.
yeah,
We never have that ability, right? Once we're down, we would have to rent any other place that we use, and every time we try to do that, it's super expensive.
right,
Sure.
right.
And the off season right now, that end of August and the beginning of the fall is, that fall sometimes quits about September 10th if we get snow,
Right. You never
right?
know.
Or it can go all the way through December. You just never know, right?
Right. All the
So
way to Thanksgiving.
but that's really turned into time. Like, for example, we're getting a new sewer this fall, and the sewer will be installed. It's already been installed at Center Lake, and it'll be extended to the Playhouse in the fall. So that's,
That's a
that
trade-off. Right.
time
Or a
that work
problem.
happens. Yay, new sewer.
Yay! News
Yeah.
all these years,
Yeah.
all these
Well,
years.
I think there's
Cheap
also an
date.
issue that the Playhouse has had to take into consideration is audience, right? Once your kids go back to school, I mean, people transition, and then your older audience that is a tourist who is coming in September and the shoulder seasons, right? They're
Yeah,
not coming to the Black Hills to see a play,
yeah,
As
That's
a
not
rule, yeah, as a
that's
rule.
not, our artists is, we know the statistics, our audiences have never traditionally been tourists
yeah.
in large numbers, right?
Well, and
So,
it's so fascinating to me how much the community of people who are mainly 85% from the Black Hills, right?
yeah,
How that drives things. Like right now in this kind of a season, we're seeing this incredible buzz. I mean, as we've been on the phone, as I mean on the Zoom, we've had over $1,000 in sales today.
Jeez.
Wow.
And so the online ability to sell, and then also this is a buzz in our community that's happening.
Mhm.
And it is also what keeps us strong.
Yep.
It's not the tourists who are going to donate to a capital campaign to improve the Playhouse. And so I think that relationship we have with our community in this place is so special. And I think the more that we can love on our own community, the stronger we get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as a good friend that I used to work with, Minnow and I used to work with, always ended with, and all shall be revealed. I thank you all. We thank you all.
Before we
Are there
finish,
other questions? Yeah,
I
go.
want to go back to one thing. So we talked a lot about auditions and the online application process for auditions, but I want to mention that technical staff, almost all of them were hired via online application process.
Oh, can you
So
can
the
you say
technical
a
staff,
tiny bit about the online application for tech people, what that is?
so they're able to submit through the same places that the auditions the auditions were through our the universities that we have our relationships with. And through ACTF and through the United Professional Theater auditions, they have those application processes are there, and we also accept them directly to us. Um, and we do have in-person auditions at the individual schools, but Jason Reuter was back helping us this year in terms of hiring all of the technical staff, and he is doing all of that stuff was happening via Zoom and via interviews process, and so all of that was happening via electronically as opposed to in person.
Mhm.
So I would say that that's probably 90% in person or electronic versus 10% in person.
Wow, wow.
So just to
Sure.
And
clarify that.
so
No, that
what do
makes
they,
sense.
what is that interview? It's an interview and then their
They submit their resume, their
resume.
portfolio, and he reviews that and then decides who he wants to reach out to. And if there's people that we want that I see, then I pass them on with my recommendations, and then he follows up and reviews and interviews them.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, and this year we were hired way earlier, which is helpful to all of us.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Was
I just
that by
wanted to throw that
design or
out there,
just
that,
by
the technical
luck?
part is.
What'd you say, Mark?
Was that by design or by luck? I mean, did you back things up to order to hire earlier, or did it just work out that way?
I think more money made
Oh,
people say yes
oh,
quicker.
sure, sure, sure. So that made decision
Dan could
making
probably
easier and
speak to
faster.
that.
I say that was definitely a part of it.
Good. Okay.
And
In years past, people would apply at a number of different places, but they'd want to wait to see if they could get a higher contract. So
Sure.
Mhm.
yeah, that didn't happen as much this year.
Interesting.
and are you at the rate of yeah, what the market is? I mean, you must be. You were able to cast and hire, so you must be at least at a certain place
Yeah,
that
we are.
I
good.
think
We're
we
at a good
are.
level.
That must feel so much better to you all. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think it is. I think on Dan's side, it's definitely, for my side of and for fundraising, it's, how will we sustain this now will be the question. And so we sustain it by people coming to shows and our alums. Our alums have supported us from long distances for a long time. That means just a ton to us. Alums should also remember that they can ask for an alumni rate. So you can come to a show for $25, which is about, quite a bit less. Just ask for it. And that support just means the world to us. It's so important. And we are so excited about the plans that are coming forward for the 80th. And I really hope people will come back because
We're gonna have fun.
Beautiful
Gonna be fun.
celebration.
Janet, are you coming, Janet?
Yes.
Thank you. I can put that name down. Janet's coming.
Now a
Good.
whole bunch of people are going to come because Janet's coming.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I just hate to say, I think about this for all of those older people who might be watching this. I mean, Jenny May, you and I have, well, I definitely have become to the Happen Ellie status, right? I mean, remember when we first went there and there was Happen Ellie and you thought, oh, what is this wonderful old couple who are so
Right,
supportive of
exactly.
We're
Black
old now,
Class.
they happen,
Well,
Elliot. Oh my
I
God.
know,
now
we
we live in. So
we
there,
always told Happen I said to him, when we grow up, Menno and I want to be you guys.
that's exactly
There you
right.
go.
And have
Right.
martini burger.
And have martini burgers and
Okay.
giggle.
So we have to be there. We'll be
We
there.
have to be there to have martini burgers and giggle for them. Exactly. Yeah. Well, again, thank you all. All shall be revealed, and it's amazing the work that the Playhouse is doing and has done and will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.